Dear friends, welcome to this week's edition of the Inspired Parsha. This week we have the incredible privilege to read through Parsha's Toldos. And like every Parsha in the Torah, there's so many beautiful, rich Torah ideas, especially in the Hasidic world. But I just want to focus on one pasuk, one verse. This is in Bereshis, Genesis chapter 25, verse 28. In this week's Parsha, we're introduced to the twins, Yaakov and Esav. Of course, Yaakov was the one who became known as a holy person. He was an Ishtam, a simple person, Yoshe Bohalam, a very holy spiritual person. And Esav was that very physical person. He was a hunter. He was deeply enmeshed in the physical, materialistic world. And this pasuk is very difficult to understand. This is in Genesis chapter 25, verse 28. It says, "Vayehav Yitzchak es Esav ki tzayid b'fiv." Yitzchak loved Esav because of the game that was in his mouth, because of the food that was in his mouth. How are we to understand this? We know Yitzchak was on such a high spiritual level. We're talking about Yitzchak who's willing to sacrifice himself at the Akedah. How is it that he was blinded, that just because of the food that was in his mouth, that's why he loved Esav? How are we to understand this? So there's a beautiful answer from the Chidushei HaRim, the first Ger Rebbe. He says that it wasn't the food that was in his mouth. It's that he saw in Esav the ability to transform that which is physical into something spiritual, something more meaningful. Yaakov was almost born holy. He was that simple, pure soul. But Esav wasn't. Esav was materialistic. Esav was the hunter. Esav was just a man of the field. And he saw in Esav the ability to be able to transform himself, that which is physical, the game that was in his mouth, into something more spiritual, something more holy. We always think which one's the better of the two, the person that's born innocent and pure, the holy person, or the person who had a lot of struggles and was deeply enmeshed in the physical material world and then transformed themselves into something more spiritual. And the answer, of course, is actually the second one. The person who used to struggle very physically with the world, very deeply enmeshed in the materialistic world, and then became greater, was able to transform himself or herself into something more spiritual. There's a famous portion in the Talmud, many of you know this, that Makom Shabbat Tshuva Umdin, the place where a Baal Tshuva, someone who returned to God, stands, Ein Tzadikim Yoshim. The Tzadikim can't stand in that place. The Baal Tshuva, the person who returned to God after a lifetime, after years of struggle, after being very deeply into the materialistic world, that's an even higher level. And that's what Yitzchak saw in Esav, that potential to turn himself into someone who is spiritual, someone who is holy. And so he saw Esav as untapped potential, and that's why he loved Esav. Of course, we all know the sad ending of the story. Esav unfortunately failed in his mission. He couldn't rise above it. But there's still lessons that we can learn from this. We can learn that we all have our struggles. We all are deeply enmeshed in that physical world. But we can learn from the goodness that Yitzchak saw in his son Esav, that he could transform himself. We all can be transformed. God, of course, believes in all of us. He created us with our struggles, but he still believes that we can transform ourselves into something which is holy, something that's real. I want to give everyone here a bracha, a blessing. Take this lesson to heart. God gave us tremendous abilities, tremendous capabilities, tremendous potential. We can all transform ourselves, the physical part of ourselves, into something more spiritual, something more meaningful. And with that, I want to wish everyone here a wonderful Shabbos Kodesh. Thank you so much for listening.